What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video, an impromptu video. Didn't think I'd make one today, but some news out of Auburn, Alabama. BRYAN HARSIN is fired and is out as the head coach of Auburn. I'll talk more about that in a sec. Thank you for clicking on the video. I talk college football basically this time of year, basically on the daily. And another one today, and I just want to say, I said it last video, but happy Halloween to all my subscribers, and happy birthday to the GOAT, Nick Saban. Roll Tide, roll. Happy birthday, Nick Saban. But let's get into it. So today, on Halloween, a day before BRYAN HARSIN's birthday, and the day of Nick Saban's birthday, Auburn fired BRYAN HARSIN. We knew this was coming. We absolutely knew this was coming. It was just a matter of when, not of if. This followed a 41-27 loss to Arkansas last Saturday at home and a 3-5 start to the season. HARSIN has lost 9 of the last 10 games against Power 5 teams. Auburn also fired Eric Cassou, the offensive coordinator that BRYAN HARSIN brought from Boise State. Let's take a look. HARSIN only lasted a season and a half. Only a season and a half at Auburn. The SEC is rough, man. They spit you up and chew you back out in a second. Coaches do not last long, and this is evidence. In 2021, he went 6 of 7 and 3 and 5 in SEC play. He actually started the season 6 and 2. But ended with 5 straight losses. One of those losses including the disaster in the pasture, a 24-22 loss to rival Alabama in 4 overtimes in the Iron Bowl. Roll Tide, roll. So started 6 of 2, ended 6 of 7. In 2022, he went 3 and 5 and 1 and 4 in SEC play. Just terrible. And overall, at the end of his Auburn tenure, he has finished 9 of 12 overall and 4 and 9 in SEC play. Good for a .429 winning percentage overall and a abysmal .286 SEC winning percentage overall. Yeah, man, he has not been good at all at Auburn. His seat really got hot last February when he failed to sign a single player on National Signing Day. Last year, February, National Signing Day, did not sign a single player. The Auburn Boosters, who have a great bit of power at Auburn, were very, very upset with him for that. Did not sign a single player, and that's really when you heard the first rumors of HARSIN being on the hot seat and the boosters being upset with him, and that would start a whole series of events that I'll get to in a minute here. HARSIN, in my opinion, well, not even my opinion, no. HARSIN, just from an objective fact angle, has been far worse than Malzahn. Auburn fired Malzahn in 2019, but I mean, you take a look at 2019 compared to where Auburn is now. In 2019, Auburn beat Alabama. Auburn had a decent season. Now, it wasn't good, like, at all, but it is a decent season. And a couple years prior to that, in 2017, they were top 10 or top 20 and were a win away from going to the playoffs. But you look at where they were 2019 compared to now, I mean, it's night and day. And speaking of Malzahn, Auburn is still paying Malzahn. Auburn is still paying Malzahn $21.5 million on his huge buyout that he had. Speaking of buyouts, HARSIN's buyout is roughly $15 million. Auburn is paying so much money just in coaching buyouts. But let's get to all the controversies that HARSIN had, mainly surrounding the offseason. First, like I said, no players on National Signing Day. The boosters were extremely upset with him. Then, 18 players 18 players transferred last offseason, including 4-star defensive tackle Lee Hunter, who Auburn fans were very excited about and wanted to see develop into a good player. Very hyped coming out of high school. And speaking of Lee Hunter, he came forward and said HARSIN treated them like dogs, and he was relieved to step away from the program. The defensive coordinator for Auburn, Derek Mason, took a pay cut to go to Oklahoma State. Now, I could see if he took over as head coach, that makes sense. No. Derek Mason took a pay cut to take the same exact job at Oklahoma State. First of all, Auburn is a much more prestigious program than Oklahoma State. No hate to Oklahoma State, even though they just did abysmal this past weekend. 48-0 lost to Kansas State. But that's not the topic of the video. No disrespect to them, but Auburn is so much more prestigious of a program than Oklahoma State. And to take a pay cut to go there for the same exact job was really just a super red flag. And not only defensive coordinator, but offensive coordinator struggles. I do not have the names here, I apologize, but Auburn fired their offensive coordinator. This was in the offseason. Hired a new one. That new one lasted about a month before he quit, and Auburn had to hire another new offensive coordinator. That offensive coordinator being the one I mentioned earlier, Eric Cassou, or my bad if I mispronounced that, who they fired now, and will have to look for a new offensive coordinator. Terrible, terrible controversies. But by far, the one that stuck out the most, and the one that was talked about the most, and the most alarming, was HARSIN's rumored affair with an assistant. I won't say her name or show her picture, but she was a very, very young intern for Auburn. Very young intern for Auburn. She used to be a cheerleader at Boise State, which is where BRYAN HARSIN coached before he went to Auburn. And he brought her over from Boise State. But BRYAN HARSIN, 45, he is a married man. And these rumors in the Bible Belt, in Alabama, the Bible Belt, this would be bad anywhere for your head coach to be having an affair with a assistant. Like, no crap. This is bad anywhere. But it's especially bad in the Bible Belt, where it is very, very looked down upon. And that is really when I knew, hey, this guy isn't going to last long. Like, unless he starts seriously winning football games, and I'm talking about seriously develops into a good coach, he's out. That he would need a very good year in order to save his job, and that he has not been having. But now that BRYAN HARSIN is gone, I expected. I've been talking about it. I don't know how many times I've mentioned it on this channel. But I've been talking about it all season that BRYAN HARSIN, it's just a matter of if and not when. I knew coming into the season because of all these controversies, I'm like, hey, HARSIN, I don't think Auburn's going to do good. I predicted them to finish worst team in the SEC, I think, or right there with Missouri and Vanderbilt. I was like, hey, I don't think HARSIN's going to do good, and I'd be very shocked to see him finish the season, and he did not. So I've been talking about, hey, it's a matter of when, not if. Me and my papa watch games when my papa talk about football with him. We've been, hey, it's been every week. It's like, is this the week? Is this the week he's going to get fired? And this was finally the week on Halloween. But now that BRYAN HARSIN is gone, Carnell Cadillac Williams will serve as interim head coach for Auburn. He played running back for Auburn in the early 2000s. We'll see how he does. But the rumor mill, you know how college football is. The rumor mill is already starting. These are what I've heard as the top 4 candidates for Auburn head coaching position. One of them is Lane Kiffin. Now, non-biased, yes, this is a good hire and makes sense, kind of. But from a biased perspective, I really hope this doesn't happen. I think Lane Kiffin is a very good coach, And I think going to Auburn would just give him even more talent than he does have now at Ole Miss. And also, Lane Kiffin's just a likable guy. I mean, he's funny, makes jokes. I really like him. I hope he doesn't go to Auburn. But I don't know if it'll happen. Again, Lane Kiffin having ties to Alabama, I mean, that hasn't stopped people in the past from Auburn, Alabama, even transfers. But, has ties to Alabama, and he talks very highly about Nick Saban. In fact, this past weekend, he called out Jimbo Fisher for talking bad about him and Nick Saban and defending Nick Saban as his buddy. So I don't know how that would work, Lane Kiffin at Auburn. I hope they don't, but it would make sense. I don't think it'll happen. I think Lane Kiffin would just stick at Ole Miss, but hey, I don't know. The next one I've seen talked about is Deion Sanders, primetime. And this one, I kind of see it. It would make sense, Deion Sanders. Obviously, great Hall of Fame NFL player, but he's second year, I believe, at Jackson State, second or third year. Now, the thing about that is he's only in his second or third year of coaching college football. Prior to this, he was an offensive coordinator for high school. But he's in his second or third year at Jackson State. Now, granted, he's doing amazing at Jackson State. Not only is he signing top recruits, the top recruit in last year's class, Travis Hunter, to come to a non-FBS school like Jackson State, but he's also just winning a ton of games. So it would be interesting, and I do see why, but I just don't know if Deion's ready to take that leap all the way from non-FBS to head coach of a Power 5, dare I say, blue blood program. The next candidate is Hugh Freeze, the coach of Liberty, old coach for Ole Miss. This one really does make sense if you think about it on a surface level. Hugh Freeze, when he was with Ole Miss, was very good. He beat Nick Saban back-to-back years, obviously. And, I mean, that's what Auburn cares about most. I mean, winning, yeah, but specifically winning against Alabama in the greatest rivalry in sports. But, Hugh Freeze had some controversy at Ole Miss. Now, it was a while ago, so I can see it's, calmed down a little bit. But Hugh Freeze just signed a massive extension with the Liberty Flames. So I don't know about that. And also, fourth one, I've seen Chip Kelly in conversations a lot. I don't know about that one. He seems pretty content at UCLA. Now, Auburn's a lot better program. Auburn has a much stronger fan base than UCLA. That's not a high bar, but the contrast between how strong the fan bases are is insane. He would get paid so much more money, probably, much more recruiting. So I do see the incentive. I just don't think it'll happen. Chip Kelly obviously doing very good with UCLA and did very good with Oregon in the early 2010s. But that's what I've seen target. Who do you think Auburn will hire as their next head coach? What do you think of the firing? Do you think it was too soon, too late? And what do you think of Bryan Harsin's tenure at Auburn now that it is over? Thank you for watching. Roll Tide, and see you in the next one.